Let's go live to Jennifer now. How are you, Jennifer?
Good.
Welcome back to Over 55 and Live. I am so glad to have you on. This is Jennifer with the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. We have a lot of things going on out there. First of all, in case people are not aware of it, let's go back over the water issue because that's such an important thing to us right now.
Okay. Well, we are really working very hard right now to update Florida's oil and gas regulations and laws to make sure that we better protect groundwater resources, particularly our public water supply sources. And we're having quite an uphill battle in session right now trying to get those laws updated to the sufficient level that we feel necessary to accomplish that.
How can we help? What can our listeners do to help?
Well, just today we're putting up an action alert on our website, conservancy.org, and you can go right on there and take action, as we call it, where you can read about the issue, and with just a few clicks of a button, you can send a legislator a message about what you feel needs to be done with regards to updating these laws.
Now, this has been going on for a while, and would you do me a favor? I know the background a little bit, but could you kind of explain the crisis? I call it, I'm going to go through an analogy if you don't mind, Jennifer.
Sure, absolutely.
I hate to pay for preventive maintenance, although it's the wise thing to do. I know it's the wise thing to do. But so often, when I don't do something preventatively, all of a sudden it comes back to bite me, and I end up spending a whole lot more for, like, for instance, a computer problem. It's something, I don't have time for this, so you don't bother it, and you leave it go in the background, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, your computer crashes, and now you got an emergency, so you're spending more than you would have in the first place. And that's kind of similar to what we've been doing with water. We've been putting it on the back burner, and in fact, it needs a lot of preventative maintenance. Was that close? Was that good?
That is absolutely correct. It is always cheaper to prevent the pollution getting into waterways and even groundwater resources than it is to try to deal with it after the fact. I mean, cleanup is always extremely expensive, very difficult, and in the case of groundwater, we're not even sure if it's technically feasible to be able to clean up an aquifer once it's contaminated. So we have a situation here where we're injecting very, very hazardous and toxic chemicals underground with these new oil extraction procedures. They're largely practically unregulated at this point. The state agency doesn't even have the legal ability to deny any applications that they believe are unsafe. And so that's why we so desperately need to update these laws and regulations, because we know that fracking is now already occurring in our area in Southwest Florida. It occurred just a little over a year ago. And so we need to have the tools, the regulatory tools, to make sure to direct such activities going forward so that they don't irreparably harm our public water supplies or our environment.
Wait, Jennifer, this is Anne Marie. I'm also here with Bill. Can you describe to us what the sugarlands are and why we need them? Your Everglades agricultural area, what is that?
That's another really important issue that we need the legislature to take action on this session, and that is buying the lands directly south of Lake Okeechobee that are currently under option by the U.S. Sugar Corporation and the state of Florida. The state of Florida several years ago started to buy some of these lands in hopes of redirecting the harmfully high flows coming out the Caloosahatchee River back south to where they historically flowed and belong. And that requires buying additional land south of Lake Okeechobee because right now that's a pinch point for water. We need to be able to store and convey more water to redirect the water coming down our river back to the Everglades, and these lands are absolutely strategically vital to doing that. So we're asking the state to move forward with exercising that option to buy these remaining critical lands. Unfortunately, we're struggling with the lack of political will at the state leadership level to do that. That's why it's so important for the voters to understand and be able to voice their opinion. We also have an action alert on this issue on our website as well.
And also, just to let the listeners know, first of all, we're speaking with Jennifer Hecker from the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. on our website, over55andalive.com, that's the number 55, you will find a link to the Conservancy that will take you straight through to what's going on there. So if you can't remember the Conservancy link, go to over55andalive.com, click on the Conservancy link down in the middle of the page. It'll take you through and you can update yourself, but do us a favor. Really get busy on contacting legislators. Let them know how important this is to us. The Everglades, we've heard about that for years and years, and that's not just a recreational area or just a nice little area that we talk about. That is the most vital water source, arguably, in Southwest Florida.
That's correct. Actually, 1 in 3 Floridians get their drinking water directly from the Everglades. So it is so vital to recharging the aquifers that we depend upon for public water supplies here in South Florida. And that is why it's so important that we restore the hydrology to store more fresh water in and on the Everglades so that we can protect our drinking water supply and grow it for our growing population.
We have a hard break coming up. Jennifer, could we come back and talk a little more?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back in a moment with more from Over 55 and Alive. And we're back with Over 55 and Alive. Thanks for joining us today. We're with Jennifer Hecker with the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. Let me get the name right. She's here with Anne Marie.
Hi, Jennifer.
And
Hi.
Bill Arndt. And we're talking about the most important thing to us, water. Now, one of the things that I wanted, there's a couple of things I want to kind of editorialize on here. The people in Oregon and Colorado and parts of California for years and years and years have been going through a very, very rough drought. I know some folks in Oregon, and they always used to have adequate water. And now all of a sudden the water supply has come to an end, and now it becomes a crisis. What the Southwest Conservancy, or Conservancy of Southwest Florida, is trying to do is prevent us from being in a crisis situation with water. Their efforts are just astounding. Am I right, Jennifer?
Yes, that is our objective. We are trying to protect our water supplies and also make sure that we protect water quality.
Exactly. You know, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier, the oil exploration that's going on. Everybody hears oil exploration, especially with the pipeline being in the forefront over the last few months, and they think oil, oh my gosh, we need oil. We want to become oil independent. Exactly how much oil does Florida supply to the national supply?
So that's a really important point. In 2013, Florida supplied less than 0.1% of the nation's oil production. So we are not really a consequential oil producer. And even if we are to increase activities here in Southwest Florida, our oil is considered very poor quality oil for So, you know, one of the questions I think a lot of people are asking is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth, you know, undermining the public investment we've made in Everglades restoration, eroding our quality of life and what draws people here for tourism and to buy second homes, to have massive large-scale oil production? We, you know, can certainly understand that would be profitable to some, but to the public as a whole, we don't know if this is really compatible with our economy. We do know that these new types of oil extraction are extremely risky, especially in our unique hydrogeology here in Florida. We're on very porous, where the technologies are being used elsewhere in the United States. We are on a very risky geology for this type of oil extraction.
Absolutely. And the trade-off is how much extra. I heard the other day, you know, we're in real estate, and I was dealing with a couple that were telling me that they heard water was expensive in Florida. And I thought to myself, expensive is really not the word for it right now, because our water is really, really relatively inexpensive. But over the next few years, it can get very expensive if we're not cautious, if we're not careful, if we don't do the preventative maintenance.
That's absolutely true, as we have to increasingly rely on desalinization. Desalinization can be upwards of 10 times more expensive than what we're accustomed to paying right now. So it's extremely expensive, and that's why you don't see it more widely used. But one of the things we have concerns with is this new type of fracking oil extraction techniques use incredible amounts of fresh water from our prime potable water sources. So the Hogan well, which was fracked here in Collier County, was permitted to use 280 million gallons from our superficial aquifer in 1 year, per year. So, we are concerned that as municipalities are being asked to go to alternative water supply sources and pay for the increasing costs associated with doing so, that we're giving away our prime, cheap, fresh, potable water to these industrial users. And I think that that's one of our big pushes with our legislature, is that they should be asking the oil drillers to go to alternative water supplies for their industrial use and leave the prime potable water for public supply needs.
Absolutely. That is such a big issue too. Again, if you go to our website, over55andalive.com, and you go to the bottom, the center of the page, you'll find the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. Click on that. Make yourself aware, you the listener, make yourself aware of what is going on with our water supply. It's your future. It's your kids' future. It's your grandkids' future. It's so important to us here in Southwest Florida. We have kind of a hard deadline coming up on May 1st, isn't it?
Yes, for the U.S. sugar property to be purchased by the state of Florida, the option is until October, but the problem is we need the money appropriated by the legislature this session, which ends May 1st. So if the legislature doesn't take action, and actually something has to happen before that even occurs, the governor of Florida has to direct the state agency to conduct appraisals so we can know what the fair market value is. The legislature then would have the amount that is needed for appropriations and then be able to take action before May 1st. But we've really struggled just even getting that initial step of getting the appraisals authorized. So I think that is why we're asking people to take action on our website, contact the governor and their legislators to push that these steps occur in a timely fashion. We're running out of time, frankly, and if we don't do something immediately, we're going to watch this historic opportunity, really an opportunity of a lifetime we've waited decades for, slip through our fingers. It might never be available to us again, and it certainly will never be cheaper than it is right now.
No, exactly. The land cost here in Florida is rising dramatically. But more important than that, I think that people need to take control of their future. I really do. And by just letting other people dictate what's going to happen with our water supply is us not taking control of our future. So those listeners out there that have a concern or may not know what the concern is, do yourself a favor, educate yourself. And then when you educate yourself, get involved. Call your legislature, write your legislature, call the governor, write the governor. Let them know how urgent this is to those of us here in Southwest Florida. And then also help support the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. They have memberships available there at different levels, but it's really vital that you join them because they are doing yeoman's work behind the scenes for us. They're working so hard, and the only way they get their funding is from us becoming members. So I urge you, again, to click on the website and join the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. If you don't feel comfortable contacting the legislature, then just make a small donation to the Conservancy and let them do the work for us. Am I right, Jennifer?
Yes, that's what we try to do. We really try to represent our members and give voice to the public. Certainly the private interests are well represented in the legislature. There's numerous lobbyists up there. I am a professional lobbyist on behalf of our members. I try to go up and give voice to the public's interests and protecting public investments like Everglades restoration. We want to make sure that everything ultimately is more balanced between the private interest and public interest, and that's our role as advocates on behalf of the membership of the Conservancy, is to try to protect and advocate for that public interest to be protected in all decision making.
That's so important to us too. Jennifer, we are so glad you came on today. We're going to have you on again in a couple of weeks maybe to go a little further into this. Would you be willing to come back on?
I would love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was Jennifer Hecker with the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. They are so important to our future of the water. Please call and let them know how important water is to you. Call the legislature. Go to their website. You can go to over55andalive.com and find them. and click on the website and find out what the issues are.